Hey guys, Richard Allison here with a video on training periodisation. So in performance nutrition, we often use carbohydrate periodisation or fueling for the work required. But in order to do so, we need to have a periodised training program to base this upon. So what is periodised training? So periodised training is based on the physiological principles of overload and adaptation. By gradually increasing the stress on the body, allowing for recovery, and then reapplying the stress again, athletes can steadily build their fitness. Traditional periodisation is based on Metcalfe's model of periodisation, also known as the linear model. It is a structured approach to training that is designed to optimise athlete performance by systematically varying the intensity and volume of training over a specific period. This model was developed by the Russian physiologists back in the 1960s and is particularly useful for endurance sports like running, where athletes must balance the development of various physical capacities to peak at the right time, typically for a major competition. As shown in this figure, Metcalfe's model divides the training process into three main phases, each with distinct objectives. The first is the preparation phase, which is broken into two separate phases. The general phase, where the focus is on building a solid aerobic base, developing general strength and improving overall endurance. Next, we have the specific preparation phase. As the athlete progresses, training becomes more specific to the demands of their sport. Next, we have the competition phase. During this phase, training is designed to peak the athlete's performance for the given competition. Then lastly, we have the transition phase. This is the recovery phase following the competition season. The goal here is to allow the body to rest, recover and regenerate and prepare for the next competitive season. Training periodisation is broken into three cycles. The first cycle is the macro cycle, and this represents your entire season, typically lasting 52 weeks, and encompasses all four stages of periodised training. For example, endurance, intensity, competition and recovery. The macro cycle provides an overarching view of your training, allowing for long-term planning. For example, if you aim to peak for a major event in a year's time, you can plan backwards from that date, creating a program that allows you to peak at the right moment. This method can also be used to identify several key events throughout the year and plan for multiple peaks in fitness. It's important to know that given its length, the macro cycle is flexible and will require adjustments throughout the year. Next, we have the mesocycle. A mesocycle is a specific block of training within the macrocycle designed to achieve a particular goal. For example, during the endurance phase, a mesocycle might focus on improving muscular endurance by including workouts that involve sustained effort at moderate intensity. Mesocycles typically last 3 to 4 weeks, and a common structure might include 3 weeks of progressively harder training followed by 1 week of recovery or deload. Lastly, we have the microcycle. Now, the microcycle is the shortest training cycle, usually lasting 1 week. Its goal is to facilitate a focused block of training. For example, an endurance microcycle might involve several long runs in 1 week to progressively overload the training volume. So that's the structure of periodised training. But why does periodised training work? Periodisation involves dividing an annual plan into specific time blocks, each with a particular goal, providing your body with varying types of stress. This structure creates periods of intense training and easier periods for recovery, allowing you to develop different physiological abilities throughout the training phases. For instance, during the base training phase, the focus is on developing aerobic and muscular endurance. In the intensity phase, the focus shifts to improving lactate threshold and aerobic capacity, also known as VO2 max. As you approach the competition phase, the emphasis moves towards enhancing anaerobic capacity and neuromuscular power. Periodisation is the most effective way to promote the training effect, which includes changes in your cardiovascular and musculoskeletal systems, and this results in increased speed and endurance. But what about putting periodisation into practice? When starting a periodised training program, you may notice your hard training days become more intense, while your easy days become truly easy. This contrasts with unstructured training, where many athletes train at a medium hard intensity most of the time. Although this can yield some improvement, it lacks the significant stimulus and recovery balance needed for optimal gains. So let's have a look at the overall structure and some examples of some microcycles within that. So first we have the preparation period, where the goal is to establish general fitness and ease into the structured training. As shown here, the microcycles may include light aerobic workouts 3 to 4 days a week, some cross-training, recovery and flexibility 1 to 2 days a week. And the aim is to increase aerobic workouts. Next we have the base period, where the goal is to build aerobic endurance, muscular strength and stamina. As shown here, the microcycles focus on aerobic endurance whilst increasing the intensity and building endurance. The weekly mileage gradually increases and will include runs up to 120 to 130 minutes. Next, we have the build period, arguably the most important period. The goal here is to enhance the lactate threshold and build muscular endurance. As shown here, the microcycles will focus on speed and endurance. We'll start to introduce interval training, 5 to 10 minutes at threshold pace. We'll continue those long runs, increase the interval duration, and the long runs may creep up to 140 to 145 minutes. And we'll have some threshold workouts in there up to 150 minutes long. Again, there's a strong focus on recovery, focus on strength endurance, and again, there's some more tempo runs in there and specific race endurance. Next, we have the peak period. Now, the goal within this period is to sharpen fitness, taper, and prepare for race day. The microcycles include the final few high-intensity workouts, long run at marathon pace, and reducing overall volume. We'll further reduce the volume and maintain intensity and add the final race-specific workouts. Then we lead into the taper period where we reduce volume by 40 to 50% and focus on rest and recovery. Then we have the race week. Now, the goal here is to ensure optimal performance on race day. This will include some very light running, mostly rest, and final race-specific drills with a focus on nutrition and hydration. Then lastly, we have the transition period, where the goal is for active recovery, light cross training, stretching, and flexibility. This also allows us to reflect on our race experience, learn from any errors, and make improvements for the upcoming cycle. In conclusion, understanding the 3 cycles of periodization, macrocycle, mesocycle, and microcycle, allows you to create a structured training plan that helps you to peak at the right time. This approach ensures that you maximize your performance whilst minimizing the risk of injury, and it lays out the foundation for a successful event, but it's crucial to remain flexible and adjust according to your body's feedback. I hope you found this video useful and interesting. If you did, please like and subscribe. I'm going to be posting videos on training, nutrition, and recovery every week.